we are in the last 6 short stories of our buddy read before we host Heidi on the show. This is our last chance to put our heads together, Sarah, about these stories. Starting in this one with, I said 6, 7 short stories in this particular chunk. The first being a micro novel, Turns To. Thoughts?
I thought it was experimental. I thought although it was so short, it really was a micro novel. It was the life and death of a relationship.
There's a line in this one I really like, and it's in the middle of micro chapter 8. It says, "Love is fire, destructive yet delicate." And I really like that image, destructive yet delicate. And it forced me to think about, those flames, and there's no substance to them necessarily, but yet they can do so much. So I thought that was a really cool line. And the next one, Birdsong. So one thing that struck me about this one is we're in very contemporary times, because up until then we've been sort of all over the place in terms of timeline, but now we're in the pandemic days, and I thought that was felt very close.
And I also feel like in the unique place that Newfoundland was in during those early days of the pandemic, because of the isolated nature of the place, it helped, kind of protect everyone. And although people were apart, there was still this sense of, kind of community and this sense of safety that I don't know that you had in other places.
We don't want to forget what the pandemic was like, and we don't want to forget what it was like here for us. So I thought it did a nice job of sort of wrapping up those moments and those connections and what that was like into a story format.
Brandon Lee is another recurring character. Mm-hmm. We first meet him in Triptych. And a really unique character. He's a crow. And so, the bird's eye view and the bird's perspective.
Is it Marin has been born?
Yes.
So this was a nice revisiting of their relationship.
Lulu and Elodie have had a bit of a tumultuous relationship throughout this collection. And to see there being some softness was nice. It's like a nice little reward for us to get as we're reading through their stories.
I don't know if we have quite enough information to totally absolve Lulu's dad, but in a sea of bad dads, as it were, he does seem to kind of have a little bit of a silver lining, that we misunderstood him. We weren't really given the full story, nor was Lulu. So I kind of felt a bit better about that, but
just to kind of know him as more of this specter that was kind of, looming over Elodie's life and her kind of living in a haunted mansion of her own creation.
Well, and I think being able to see her dad in that perspective is what allowed her to eventually have what her mother anyway presents as a fairly positive relationship with David, which is good for Marin. So sort of she enters into the possibility of that same cycle, but seems to kind of stop it based on what she saw with her dad and was able to learn about with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Were you surprised that she didn't just call the next story Elodie? Because she's been doing the Lulu Elodie thing the whole way through, but this one is called Enchantée, but it's from Elodie's perspective.
Heidi's been very good about naming these stories. They're really, I feel like they've been very purposefully named, I should say. And I feel like in this one, which I don't want to, kind of give too much away, but, we do encounter Elodie again in a different way. And there is there's a grace that he displays in this.
And I feel like this story was definitely where I was really feeling the threads coming together, and they were sort of braiding into you could feel that final piece of the whole book coming together. Just this idea of all of these world events happen, right? But the house is there all along, right? And the people are coming in and coming out, and they're interacting with these events, whether it's Confederation or it's an economic depression or it's your own personal turmoil, a pandemic. All of these things, they come and they go, much like what you were saying with the popsicle, right? It's these are the things that happen in a lifetime, but then always in these domestic environments, the big things and the small things, but they all happen at home.
that's a really great way to sum it up.
And then circular, which, a great title for the final story.
And circling back.
Yeah. When I turned the page and saw 2037. So first of all, I was like, oh, story set in the future. Not expecting it. Then I also had the moment of being like, 2037 is not that far in the future, which is terrifying. But, I was like, 2037, wow, they were probably all in space masks. And this is like
the Jetsons. Yeah.
Exactly. A little over 10 years away. So, I'm really curious about asking her just was she picturing a post-apocalyptic, sort of a, what's that word? Starts with D. I wrote it down. I always forget it. Dystopia.
Oh, dystopia. I mean, there were elements of, kind of alluded to a dystopian society happening somewhere close by.
Somewhere.
Maybe closer for some of us than others.
Yeah. I was just thinking that.
I thought it was really interesting and fitting that we got to revisit the character of Bobby, Brenda's brother, who we're introduced to in Bubbles, the first story, and really getting to hear his story and what became of him.
Yeah, and I was happy that Bobby didn't end up where we thought he would end up either, in the first story, but
threadbare t-shirts and living with mom and dad, but he really gets his act together and is actually super smart.
The next time we meet to talk about Here by Heidi Wicks, we will be here with Heidi Wicks.
We will, and we are very excited. So once again, send in any questions that you would like us to ask her. We are so looking forward to this conversation, and keep on reading Here.